Have you ever noticed how a single word can stay in someone's mind for years? Not an insult, not a failure, just one simple word, no. A job application gets rejected. A message gets ignored. A friend stops calling. Someone you deeply care about chooses someone else. And somehow, even when life moves on, those moments remain with us. So let me ask you something. Why does rejection hurt so much? Why can a stranger's opinion ruin our day? And why do humans fear rejection more than almost anything else? The answer is much deeper than most people realize. Because rejection is not just something that happens to us. It touches something ancient inside us. Something that has been part of human nature for thousands of years. If you think about it, humans were never designed to survive alone. Long before cities, technology, and modern society existed, survival depended on belonging to a group. Being accepted meant protection. It meant food. It meant safety. It meant survival. And being rejected often meant the opposite. Isolation wasn't just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. Some psychologists believe that even today, our brains still react to social rejection as if it threatens our survival, which explains something interesting. Why rejection often feels physical. Have you ever felt a heavy sensation in your chest after being rejected? Or a knot in your stomach? Or that strange feeling where you can't stop thinking about what happened? That's because emotional pain and physical pain are more connected than most people think. Our minds don't always separate them as clearly as we'd like, and that's why rejection feels so personal, even when it shouldn't. What's fascinating is that most people don't actually fear rejection itself. They fear what rejection seems to say about them. Think about it. When someone rejects us, our minds immediately start creating stories. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not attractive enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I don't matter. And suddenly, one event becomes a judgment of our entire worth. But here's the problem. Most of those stories are completely inaccurate. Rejection usually tells us far more about circumstances, timing, preferences, or compatibility than it does about our value as human beings. Yet our emotions rarely see it that way, because emotions don't operate like logic. They operate like memories. And many people's fear of rejection doesn't begin in adulthood. It begins much earlier, sometimes in childhood. A child who constantly feels criticized may grow up fearing mistakes. A child who feels ignored may become terrified of being overlooked. A child who receives love only when they perform well may eventually connect acceptance with achievement. Years later, those patterns can quietly follow them into friendships, relationships, careers, and everyday decisions. Without even realizing it, many adults are still trying to avoid emotional wounds they experienced years ago. And this creates an invisible prison. People stop taking risks. They stop speaking honestly. They stop pursuing opportunities, not because they can't succeed, but because they want to avoid rejection. What's tragic is that fear often costs more than rejection itself. Think about how many dreams never begin because someone fears hearing no. How many businesses never get started? How many conversations never happen? How many relationships never form? How many talented people stay invisible? Not because they lack ability, but because rejection feels too painful to face. And honestly, I think this is one of the greatest hidden struggles of modern life. People aren't always limited by failure. They're limited by the fear of failure. There's a difference. One teaches you, the other traps you. And the strange thing is that rejection often becomes less painful once you've experienced enough of it. The first rejection feels devastating. The 10th feels uncomfortable. The 100th becomes information. That's something successful people eventually understand. Whether they're entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, or creators, they stop viewing rejection as a verdict. They start viewing it as feedback, a closed door, a redirection, a lesson, sometimes even a blessing. Because life has a funny way of revealing this truth years later. Many people eventually realize that some of their biggest disappointments protected them from situations that weren't right for them, the relationship that ended, the opportunity they lost, the dream that didn't happen. At the time, it felt devastating. Later, it made sense. Not always immediately, but eventually. And maybe that's one of the hardest lessons in life. Acceptance and rejection are both temporary. Neither defines who you are. Yet many people spend years chasing approval from others, trying to fit in, trying to be liked, trying to avoid criticism, trying to become someone they were never meant to be. The irony is that the more you seek universal acceptance, the more exhausted you become, because it's impossible. No matter who you are, someone will misunderstand you, someone will disagree with you, someone won't appreciate your value. That's not a flaw in life, that's simply reality. Even the most admired people in history faced rejection. Scientists were rejected, writers were rejected, inventors were rejected, artists were rejected, visionaries were rejected, yet they continued anyway, because eventually they learned something powerful. Being accepted by everyone is not the goal. Being authentic is, and authenticity always carries risk. Some people will like you, some won't. Some will support your journey, others will criticize it. That's normal. The goal isn't to eliminate rejection from your life. The goal is to stop allowing rejection to control your life. Because the moment you stop fearing rejection, something remarkable happens. You become freer, you speak more honestly, you take more chances, you pursue bigger goals, you become more comfortable being yourself, and perhaps most importantly, you stop measuring your worth through other people's opinions. In my view, that's where real confidence begins, not when everyone approves of you, but when you realize they don't need to, because your value was never created by acceptance, and it can never be destroyed by rejection. So the next time life tells you no, remember this. Rejection is not proof that you're unworthy. It's proof that you're participating, you're trying, you're growing, you're moving, and every meaningful life contains rejection somewhere along the way. Maybe that's the real lesson. The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't the ones who never face rejection. They're the ones who stop running from it. If this made you think differently about rejection, then you're already seeing what most people miss. Sometimes the door that closes isn't the end of the story. Sometimes it's the moment your real story begins.